One day, a wise monk was asked, "What is the secret to never being controlled by anyone?" The monk smiled and replied, "The day I stopped needing people to give me what I should give myself, I became free." Think about that. How much of your suffering comes from needing someone to stay, someone to understand you, someone to approve of you, or someone to make you feel worthy? The Buddha taught that the deepest form of freedom is not having everything you want. It is no longer needing the things that once controlled your peace. In this video, you will discover 5 powerful lessons that can free you from emotional dependence, help you embrace solitude, and show you why the moment you need nothing from anyone is the moment you become truly unstoppable. 1. The moment you stop needing people, you take your power back. One of the most important moments in a person's life is not when they become rich, famous, respected, or admired. It is the moment they realize that their peace should never depend on another human being. Many people spend years giving away their power without even noticing it. They hand over their happiness to friends, family members, partners, co-workers, and even strangers. Their mood depends on how others treat them. Their confidence depends on how others see them. Their sense of worth depends on how much attention, appreciation, or affection they receive. And because of this, they live on an emotional roller coaster. When people praise them, they feel valuable. When people ignore them, they feel worthless. When people stay, they feel secure. When people leave, they feel broken. The Buddha taught that suffering begins when we become attached to things that are constantly changing. Human beings are among the most unpredictable things in existence. People change their minds. People change their feelings. People change their priorities. Sometimes they leave without warning. Sometimes they disappoint us in ways we never expected. Yet many people build their entire emotional world on things they cannot control. Think about how exhausting that is. Imagine waking up every day needing someone else to make you feel important. Imagine constantly checking whether people still like you, still approve of you, still care about you. Imagine spending years trying to earn acceptance from people who are struggling with their own fears, insecurities, and problems. This is not freedom. This is emotional dependence. The moment you need someone else's approval to feel complete, you place the key to your happiness in their hands. Whether they realize it or not, they gain power over your emotions. A single compliment can make your day. A single criticism can ruin your week. But something remarkable happens when you stop needing people to complete you. You begin to enjoy relationships without becoming dependent on them. You begin to appreciate others without clinging to them. You begin to love people without making them responsible for your happiness. This is the difference between attachment and inner freedom. A person who is attached says, "I cannot be okay without you." A person who is free says, "I value you deeply, but my peace comes from within." The strongest people are not those who push everyone away. The strongest people are those who understand that their emotional stability does not belong to anyone else. They do not beg for attention. They do not chase validation. They do not panic when someone distances themselves. Instead, they remain centered, calm, grounded, because they have learned a truth that most people spend their entire lives avoiding. Everything outside of you can change. People can leave, relationships can end, opinions can shift. But if you build your peace within yourself, nothing outside of you can completely destroy it. The day you stop needing people to tell you who you are is the day you begin discovering who you really are. And that is the moment you take your power back. 2. Why seeking validation keeps you emotionally weak. One of the most invisible forms of suffering is the constant need for validation. Many people do not even realize they are trapped by it because it has become such a normal part of their daily lives. They want people to agree with them. They want people to admire them. They want people to notice their efforts, appreciate their sacrifices, and recognize their value. At first, this may seem harmless. After all, everyone enjoys being appreciated. Everyone likes being respected. Everyone feels good when they receive praise. The problem begins when validation changes from something you enjoy into something you need. The moment your emotional well-being depends on approval from others, you lose control over your inner world. Suddenly, your confidence rises and falls based on other people's opinions. If people praise you, you feel strong. If people criticize you, you feel weak. If people support your choices, you feel confident. If people question your decisions, you begin doubting yourself. Without realizing it, you have given strangers the power to determine how you feel about yourself. The Buddha taught that attachment is one of the main causes of suffering. Most people think attachment only applies to possessions, relationships, or material things. But many people are deeply attached to something even more dangerous. They are attached to being approved of. They are attached to being liked. They are attached to being accepted by everyone around them. This creates a life filled with anxiety because no matter what you do, you will never be able to control how other people think. You can be honest and still be criticized. You can be kind and still be misunderstood. You can give your best and still disappoint someone. That is simply the nature of life. The moment you try to make everyone happy, you begin losing yourself. You start changing your behavior to fit other people's expectations. You stop speaking honestly because you fear rejection. You stop following your own path because you fear judgment. You become a performer on a stage, constantly waiting for applause. And the frightening part is that applause never lasts. No matter how much validation you receive today, you will need more tomorrow. It becomes an endless cycle. The Buddha encouraged people to look inward rather than outward for their sense of worth. Real confidence is not built on compliments. Real confidence is built on self-understanding. It comes from knowing your values, knowing your character, knowing the kind of person you are becoming. When your self-worth comes from within, criticism loses much of its power. You listen without becoming destroyed. You learn without becoming discouraged. You improve without feeling ashamed. This does not mean you become arrogant or ignore feedback. It means your identity is no longer controlled by the opinions of others. A strong person is not someone who receives universal approval. A strong person is someone who remains steady whether approval comes or not. Think about how much energy people waste trying to impress others. They carefully choose their words. They hide their true thoughts. They constantly compare themselves to everyone around them. And yet, even after all that effort, they still feel insecure. Why? Because insecurity can never be healed by external validation. It can only be healed by internal acceptance. The day you stop asking the world to confirm your value is the day you begin experiencing real freedom. You no longer need constant reassurance. You no longer need everyone to understand you. You no longer need approval before taking action. You simply live according to your principles and allow others to think whatever they wish. That is emotional strength. That is inner freedom. And that is why the person who no longer seeks validation becomes far more powerful than the person who spends their entire life chasing it. 3. Solitude becomes freedom. When you stop fearing it. One of the greatest misunderstandings in modern life is the belief that being alone automatically means being lonely. Most people treat solitude as something to avoid. The moment silence enters their life, they rush to fill it. The moment they find themselves alone, they reach for distractions. A phone, a conversation, a television screen, social media, anything to escape the uncomfortable feeling of sitting with themselves. But the Buddha taught something very different. He understood that solitude is not a punishment. It is not a sign that life has gone wrong. In many cases, solitude is where life finally begins. The reason so many people fear being alone is because solitude removes distractions. When there is nobody around to entertain you, comfort you, validate you, or distract you, you are left face to face with your own mind. And for many people, that is terrifying, because beneath the noise of daily life are questions they have been avoiding for years. Who am I when nobody is watching? Why am I constantly seeking approval? Why do I fear rejection so much? Why do I feel incomplete on my own? These questions remain hidden when life is busy, but solitude brings them into the light, and that is why many people run from it. Yet the very thing they are running from contains the freedom they are searching for. Think about it. If you cannot enjoy your own company, you will always depend on others to escape yourself. You will constantly need people around you. You will constantly seek attention. You will constantly fear abandonment, because your happiness depends on external companionship. This creates emotional dependence, and emotional dependence creates suffering. The Buddha understood that true freedom begins when you become comfortable with yourself, when you can sit alone without feeling empty, when you can spend time with your thoughts without becoming overwhelmed, when silence stops feeling like loneliness and starts feeling like peace. Something extraordinary begins to happen. You stop chasing people, you stop forcing connections, you stop begging for attention. You stop tolerating unhealthy relationships simply because you fear being alone. For many people, the reason they remain trapped in painful relationships is not love, it is fear. Fear of solitude, fear of emptiness, fear of having nobody to turn to, fear of facing life by themselves. Because of this fear, they accept disrespect, they accept manipulation, they accept emotional neglect. They stay where they are not valued because they believe something painful, being alone, would be worse. But once you discover the beauty of solitude, that fear begins to disappear. You realize that peace is better than constant drama. You realize that loneliness is temporary, but staying in unhealthy environments can damage you for years. You realize that being alone is not the same as being abandoned. In fact, many people are surrounded by others every day and still feel deeply lonely. And many people spend long periods alone while feeling completely fulfilled. The difference is not the number of people around them. The difference is their relationship with themselves. A person who enjoys their own company carries peace wherever they go. They do not desperately need others to complete them. They do not panic when plans change. They do not feel worthless when someone walks away. They understand that their value exists independently of anyone else's presence. This is a powerful realization, because once you stop fearing solitude, you become much harder to control. Manipulation loses its power. People can no longer threaten you with their absence. Toxic individuals can no longer use rejection as a weapon. You are no longer trapped by the fear of being left behind. You know that even if everyone leaves, you still have yourself. And that knowledge creates incredible strength. The Buddha often spent long periods in quiet reflection, not because he hated people, not because he wanted isolation, but because wisdom grows in stillness, clarity grows in stillness, self-understanding grows in stillness. The deepest insights rarely arrive when your mind is surrounded by noise. They arrive when everything becomes quiet enough for you to hear yourself clearly. This is why solitude is so valuable. It teaches you things that constant social interaction never can. It reveals your fears. It reveals your attachments. It reveals the parts of yourself that need healing. And over time, it transforms your relationship with life itself. The person who fears solitude becomes a prisoner of relationships. The person who embraces solitude becomes free within relationships. They can love without clinging, care without controlling, connect without depending. Because they have already discovered something most people spend their lives searching for. They have discovered that peace was never hidden inside another person. It was always waiting within themselves. And the moment solitude stops feeling like a prison and starts feeling like a home, you step into a level of freedom that very few people ever experience. That is when being alone no longer feels like a loss. It feels like power, it feels like clarity, it feels like peace. And most importantly, it feels like freedom. For everything you cling to will eventually leave. One of the hardest truths a human being will ever face is also one of the most important. Everything you are desperately trying to hold on to will eventually change, fade, or leave. At first, this truth sounds depressing. Most people do not want to hear it. They want guarantees, they want certainty. They want promises that the people they love will stay forever, that their success will never disappear, and that the things that bring them comfort today will always remain exactly as they are. But life has never worked that way. The Buddha taught that impermanence is one of the fundamental realities of existence. Everything changes, everything moves, everything transforms, nothing remains exactly the same. The problem is not that things change. The problem is that we expect them not to, and it is this expectation that creates so much suffering. Think about your own life. How many things have already changed? The person you were 10 years ago is gone. The thoughts you once had are gone. The friendships that once felt permanent may have faded. The places you once called home may no longer be part of your daily life. Entire chapters of your life have disappeared into memory. Yet when those changes happened, many of them felt painful because part of you was trying to hold on. You wanted the moment to stay. You wanted the relationship to remain the same. You wanted life to stop moving, but life never stops moving. The river continues flowing whether we are ready or not. And suffering often begins the moment we try to grab hold of the water. Many people spend years emotionally attached to things that were only meant to be temporary. They cling to old relationships, old identities, old disappointments, old victories, old versions of themselves. Even when life is clearly asking them to let go, they continue holding on because they believe that letting go means losing something valuable. But often, what they are really losing is their peace. Imagine holding a handful of sand. The tighter you squeeze it, the more it slips through your fingers. This is how attachment works. The harder you cling to something, the more fear you create. Fear of losing it, fear of change, fear of the future, fear of uncertainty. And eventually, that fear begins controlling your life. You stop enjoying what you have because you become obsessed with protecting it. You stop appreciating the present because you are constantly worried about the future. You stop experiencing peace because your mind is always preparing for loss. The Buddha understood something. Most people spend their entire lives learning. The way to enjoy life is not to possess it. The way to enjoy life is to appreciate it without trying to own it. A flower is beautiful precisely because it does not last forever. A sunset is breathtaking because it eventually disappears. A season becomes meaningful because it changes. Impermanence is not the enemy of beauty. Impermanence is what creates beauty. Yet human beings often forget this. They become attached to people in unhealthy ways. Instead of appreciating relationships, they try to possess them. Instead of loving freely, they cling desperately. Instead of enjoying the present moment, they become obsessed with preventing change. This creates endless anxiety, because deep down, everyone knows the truth. Nothing lasts forever. No relationship, no possession, no achievement, no emotion, no phase of life. Everything changes, everything moves, everything eventually leaves. And surprisingly, this realization is not meant to make you sad. It is meant to set you free, Because the moment you fully accept impermanence, something inside you relaxes. You stop demanding permanence from temporary things. You stop expecting people to remain exactly as they were years ago. You stop expecting life to follow your personal script. You begin flowing with reality instead of fighting against it. This does not mean becoming cold. It does not mean becoming detached from life. It means learning how to participate in life without becoming imprisoned by it. You can love someone deeply while understanding they cannot stay forever. You can enjoy success while understanding it may one day fade. You can appreciate beautiful moments while understanding they will pass. In fact, accepting impermanence often makes you appreciate life even more, because you stop taking things for granted. You become present, you listen more carefully, you love more sincerely, you appreciate more deeply. You become grateful for what exists right now, instead of demanding that it exist forever. Most people spend their lives fighting reality. Reality says everything changes. The ego says everything should stay. Reality says let go. The ego says hold tighter. Reality says move forward. The ego says look back. And this inner conflict becomes the source of tremendous suffering. The Buddha's wisdom was not about escaping life. It was about seeing life clearly. And one of the clearest truths is that attachment creates pain because it asks temporary things to provide permanent security. But temporary things were never designed to do that. A relationship can bring joy, but it cannot eliminate uncertainty. Money can create comfort, but it cannot eliminate change. Success can create opportunities, but it cannot eliminate impermanence. The moment you ask temporary things to provide permanent peace, disappointment becomes inevitable. True peace emerges when you stop searching for permanence in an impermanent world. When you stop trying to freeze life. When you stop resisting change. When you stop clinging. Because the truth is this: every person you meet is passing through your life. Every moment is passing through your life. Every experience is passing through your life. You cannot stop the flow. You cannot control the river, but you can learn to stop fighting it. And when you stop fighting reality, a profound freedom begins to emerge. You love without fear. You enjoy without attachment. You appreciate without possession. You live without constantly worrying about loss. And this changes everything. Because the strongest people are not those who never lose anything. The strongest people are those who understand that loss is part of life and choose peace anyway. They know that every chapter eventually ends. Every season eventually changes. Every attachment eventually loosens. Yet they continue moving forward with an open heart. Not because they are careless, but because they have learned a powerful truth. Everything you cling to will eventually leave. But if you learn to let go gracefully, your peace never has to leave with it. 5. When you need nothing, you become unstoppable. At first, this idea sounds impossible. How can a person need nothing? After all, human beings naturally desire love, friendship, comfort, success, security, and belonging. The Buddha was not teaching people to become emotionless. He was not teaching people to reject relationships. He was not teaching people to isolate themselves from the world. What he was teaching was far more powerful. He was teaching freedom from dependence. There is a huge difference between enjoying something and needing it for your happiness. Most people never discover this difference. They spend their entire lives believing that peace exists somewhere outside themselves. They believe peace will arrive when they find the perfect relationship, the perfect amount of money, the perfect career, the perfect body, the perfect circumstances. And because they believe happiness lives somewhere in the future, they spend years chasing, always searching, always feeling incomplete. But there is a problem with this approach. The moment your happiness depends on something outside of you, you become vulnerable. You become vulnerable to loss, vulnerable to disappointment, vulnerable to manipulation, vulnerable to fear. Think about it carefully. If you need someone's approval to feel worthy, they control your emotions. If you need constant attention to feel valuable, attention controls your emotions. If you need success to feel important, success controls your emotions. If you need comfort to feel peaceful, circumstances control your emotions. Whatever you depend on gains power over you. This is why so many people live in a constant state of anxiety. They are terrified of losing the very things they depend upon. Terrified of rejection. Terrified of failure. Terrified of criticism. Terrified of change. Terrified of being alone. Their happiness is always hanging by a thread because it is attached to things they cannot fully control. The Buddha understood this trap. He saw people spending their lives chasing one attachment after another, and he saw that, even when they achieved what they wanted, the satisfaction never lasted. The mind always wanted more. More approval, more attention, more success, more certainty, more control. It was an endless cycle. A person gets the relationship they wanted. Then they fear losing it. A person gets the promotion they wanted. Then they fear losing their status. A person gains wealth. Then they fear losing their money. The attachment changes form, but the suffering remains. This is why freedom does not come from getting everything. Freedom comes from needing less. Imagine two people walking through life. The first person constantly needs reassurance, needs validation, needs recognition, needs people to behave a certain way, needs circumstances to remain favorable, needs life to follow a specific plan. The second person appreciates these things when they come, but remains peaceful when they do not. Who is stronger? Who is freer? Who is harder to control? The answer is obvious. The second person possesses a power that cannot be taken away, because their peace is not dependent on external conditions. And this is what makes a person unstoppable. Most people think being unstoppable means becoming stronger than everyone else. But true strength is something much deeper. True strength is remaining calm when life becomes unpredictable, remaining centered when people disappoint you, remaining peaceful when circumstances change, remaining grounded when things do not go according to plan. Anyone can feel confident when everything is working in their favor. Anyone can feel peaceful when life is easy. The real test comes when life becomes difficult, when someone rejects you, when someone misunderstands you, when someone leaves, when a plan falls apart, when success takes longer than expected. This is where attachment reveals itself. Because attachment says, I cannot be okay unless things happen my way. Freedom says, I prefer things to go my way, but my peace does not depend on it. This shift changes everything. The person who needs nothing from the world becomes incredibly resilient. Criticism no longer destroys them. Failure no longer defines them. Rejection no longer breaks them. Loss no longer paralyzes them. Because their identity is no longer built on temporary things. They have built their inner world on something much stronger. They have built it on awareness, wisdom, acceptance, presence, and self-mastery. The truth is that most emotional pain comes from resistance. We resist change. We resist uncertainty. We resist loss. We resist reality itself. We spend enormous amounts of energy trying to force life into the shape we want. And when life refuses to cooperate, we suffer. But when you stop needing reality to obey your expectations, a remarkable freedom appears. You stop fighting every wave. You stop resisting every challenge. You stop demanding certainty from an uncertain world. You begin flowing with life instead of battling it. This does not make you passive. It makes you powerful. Because all the energy that was once wasted on fear, attachment, and resistance becomes available for growth, for wisdom, for peace, for purposeful action. Consider the mountain. The mountain does not chase approval. The mountain does not fear criticism. The mountain does not beg storms to stay away. The mountain remains steady regardless of what happens around it. Winds come, winds go, rain falls, seasons change, yet the mountain remains. This is the kind of inner stability Buddhism points toward, not the absence of emotion, not the absence of relationships, but the presence of an unshakable center, a place within yourself that remains calm regardless of external events. Most people never discover this place because they are too busy searching outside themselves. They search for peace in possessions, peace in relationships, peace in achievements, peace in status, yet everything they seek externally remains vulnerable to change. The Buddha invited people to look inward instead, to discover a peace that cannot be bought, cannot be given, cannot be taken away, a peace that exists independent of circumstances. When you touch that inner peace, something profound happens. You stop living from fear. You stop making decisions based on desperation. You stop chasing people who do not value you. You stop begging for attention. You stop compromising your peace to gain approval. You stop abandoning yourself to keep others comfortable. You begin standing firmly in your truth. You begin walking your path without constantly looking over your shoulder. You begin trusting yourself. And people notice, not because you become louder, not because you become more aggressive, but because you carry a quiet strength, a calm confidence, a deep sense of self-respect. There is something incredibly powerful about a person who no longer needs the world to complete them. They are difficult to manipulate, difficult to intimidate, difficult to control, because their happiness does not depend on external rewards. They have already found what most people are still searching for. They have found enoughness. And when you finally realize that you are enough exactly as you are, the endless chase begins to end. You stop running. You stop grasping. You stop clinging. You stop fearing. And in that moment, life changes. Because the person who needs nothing is not empty. The person who needs nothing is full, full of peace, full of clarity, full of freedom, full of strength. And that is why, from the Buddhist perspective, the most unstoppable person is not the one who possesses the most. It is the one who has learned that their deepest peace was never dependent on possessions, people, praise, or circumstances in the first place. The moment you truly understand this, you stop chasing power. And ironically, that is the moment real power becomes yours. A bird does not become free when the cage door opens. It becomes free when it finally stops believing it needs the cage. In the same way, your freedom does not begin when life becomes perfect. Your freedom begins when you stop needing the world to give you what already exists within you. The moment you stop chasing approval, you find self-respect. The moment you stop fearing loneliness, you discover peace. The moment you stop clinging to what can leave, you find strength. Remember this. The strongest person is not the one who has everything. The strongest person is the one who remains peaceful even when they have nothing to prove, nothing to chase, and nothing to fear. So walk your path with a calm heart. Let people come, let people go, let life change, and protect your inner peace above all else. Because when you need nothing from anyone, you become truly free. And a truly free person is unstoppable.